Welcome to the Hard Skills Show with me, Dr. Mira Brancu. I work with leaders in healthcare, research, STEM, and other technical fields who recognize that developing yourself and your teams and creating a healthy, inclusive workplace environment will help you retain the best people doing the highest level work. In other words, developing the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. Now, if you value evidence-based solutions and are committed to consistent practice, then this is the podcast and show for you. In this season, we're exploring the first stage in my strategic leadership pathway model, facing uncertainty. And today we are talking with Dr. Patty Whitewater about how to counteract unhelpful societal messages about leading with uncertainty. I don't want you watching or listening to this passively. I want you to be ready to reflect deeply, take notes like me, and identify at least one small step to further develop your hard skills muscle. So let me introduce to you Dr. Patty. By the way, as I'm introducing you, Patty, I've been mispronouncing your last name the entire time. I keep wanting to say Weeder and it's Whiter. And I thank you for
get that a lot.
So that. So, anyway, Dr. Patty Whitewater is a dynamic executive coach who aims to create and sustain work environments that maximize human potential. Her energy is truly infectious. I like being around her. As a result, Patty has integrated the biopsychosocial aspects of her training as a clinical health psychologist into how she helps leaders drive change and create sustainable results. She also applies a positive psychology and well-being science lens, which matches her personality really well, I think. She's the president of the Kentucky Psychological Association, a professional affiliate for the University of Louisville Center for Positive Leadership, and owner of Shine Psychology. Patty has 3 young daughters and finds meaning in coaching other working moms, navigating alignment in their career and home life. Now, Patty and I know each other in a few different ways. She works at the Department of Veterans Affairs, and so do I, though we've never worked directly together in the same facility or the same department. She and I are both members of the Society of Consulting Psychologists. And after seeing her work and her participation in my Millennials Guide book club, I invited her to serve on the advisory board of my new Tower Scope Leadership Academy membership learning community, which we are launching right now and opening up applications in a few weeks. So with that said, welcome, Patty. Glad to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be with you, and I appreciate such a lovely introduction. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I was just reflecting also that you own this business, Shine Psychology, which of course just completely reflects exactly what I mentioned, that infectious personality, the positive psychology, empowering others. So I'm just loving even the fact that your own name of your company just reflects, who you are and what you bring.
Yeah. I think, and I know that when I'm thinking about branding and being authentic, I see that a lot from you as well. And I think it's important so that we have that vision and we can remain true to who we are. And, when I was coming up with that name, it was really, what kind of difference do I want to make? What do I bring that's unique and different to, others that I can work with? And I think a name and some of the things that we do in the ways that we connect to people can tell them a lot before we've even met. So that's I think it's important.
Absolutely. So today we're talking about societal messages that are unhelpful. And I always like to start with a more personal stories. And when it comes to navigating uncertainty and unhelpful societal messages, I often think a lot about what that means for women. Navigating their leadership careers, because this is kind of one of the areas that I lean into very heavily, that I focus on, is supporting women in leadership. And I think about my own journey, right? And those unspoken, unchallenged beliefs about uncertainty in particular. So here's some examples. When I'm especially focused on our group coaching programs, there's a lot of messages that girls and women receive over a lifetime about being and appearing perfect
Mhm.
for others, and being in control of your looks, control your body, control what you say. And if you believe those messages, which most of us do, I certainly did, right? Then perfectionism sets in, low confidence sets in, imposter syndrome sets in, and it begins to cause you to have very specific perceptions about yourself, but also act in really specific ways when it comes to leaning into uncertainty. And one of those outcomes is we don't then speak up
Mhm.
as much. We don't take as many risks. We don't try things that can lead to failure as often. And therefore, all of that means that we're trying to minimize the constant judgment, right? But we're also shying away from uncertainty.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is that once then you want to move on up in your career and be seriously considered for leadership roles, then women get the message. You need to be more certain in your decision making.
Mhm.
You need to stop over deliberating about your decisions. You need to take more risks if you're going to be seen as a leader.
Mhm. So if you want to be in the boys club, then you need to act like we've been telling them to act their whole life. And you're really in a double bind, because no matter what you do, you're probably going to get it wrong.
Right.
So
So there is some unlearning and relearning, right?
Yeah.
So like, what messages have you heard
Mhm.
related to this, or what messages, what unhelpful societal messages are you like most hearing from the leaders that you worked with that they struggle with?
Yeah, I think, one of the messages is being confident and decisive. So a leader, it's sort of like, what is a leader? Well, a leader is this. This is how you embody being a leader. You are the one who knows what to do and is not wavering. And so that identity that you must portray of being confident, of being all in on a decision is, I think, probably a message that people want to believe what a leader is, because that means that we can follow that leader and they will not get us into any trouble. We can trust them. But I don't know that, that is how to build trust.
Mm.
I think we also tell leaders a lot, you have to be strong. You have to appear somewhat invincible. You're not fallible or vulnerable or going to be shaken. And I think we also look towards leaders to be results driven, which, again, not necessarily a bad thing. However, if there's not a nuance to that, this idea is that a leader will come in, get to work. We're going to see this, impact and a quick result. And so I hear leaders who will maybe not say those things, but that's kind of what I'm hearing behind what they're saying. This is what I'm supposed to be, but I don't feel that way.
Mm-hmm. So what's interesting is that, like, yes, there's first the cognitive dissonance, right, between how you actually feel and what you're trying to project,
Mhm.
and that people do actually need that of you. So how do you reconcile? So like, if we do technically want to close the gap between how we feel and how we project, and actually we do want to feel as confident as we say we are to be, we do actually want to get results done as much as we say we're, why is it unhelpful? Like what is the harm? What is the problem with sort of faking it till you make it, I guess?
Yeah. I think when we are faking it, that's really not an authentic way to build our confidence. We don't believe it. We don't believe that we are capable inherently of leading people. We have to make ourselves something else. to be doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's keep talking about this. We are nearing our ad break. So we're gonna come back to this faking it till you make it thing. But until then, let's take an ad break. You're listening to The Hard Skills with me, Dr. Mira Branco, and our guest, Dr. Patty Whiter. The Hard Skills airs live every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you would like to join us online right now and ask us questions, you are welcome to do that. We will answer it in real time. Find us on LinkedIn or YouTube at talkradio.nyc, and we'll be back with our guest in just a moment.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back. I've got Dr. Patty Whiter here, and we're talking about facing uncertainty, especially when you're working through unhelpful societal messages. Now, before we get back to this, I wanted to share something with you, and that is, if you're watching live, here is Patty's website, Shine Psychology, and I just wanted to sort of share more information about her. She's an organizational consultant, and she's going to share a little bit about that work with us. And where we left off is we were talking about why we can't just address this disconnect between how we feel on the inside with how we want to project as leaders by just faking it. Right. So what is the problem with just projecting what people want of us?
Well, that would be, the way of leadership in a world where we have AI as leaders, right? Like we could just embody that exactly. This is the algorithm, be this, go. But the problem is that we're humans. And so I think that is something that we bring as psychologists when we are consulting, when we are coaching, that we understand that there's a lot of complexity to being human. And then you get a team of people together, an organization of people together, and there's a lot of complexity in how you navigate relationships. And to be able to embody this confident, decisive, strong, invincible, quick result machine without understanding nuance, without understanding emotion, without understanding that results happen at the speed of relationships that get you there, then we are really sort of spinning our wheels and in the process, probably beating ourselves up because we're not getting it right. And I have to fake it. Why should I have to fake it? It can lead to people being very critical of themselves rather than having compassion that this is a challenge and that they're learning and that's part of the process, that being human and growing as a leader means that you will have uncertainty and uncertainty is uncomfortable, but that's normal.
So this sounds very psychological to me. I don't know, Patty.
Right. I mean, I think that one of the aspects of the reasons I'm drawn to impacting organizations is because I like to apply psychology. I like to take what I know about the brain, the body, emotion, behavior, motivation, all of those things, those principles of psychology that help us to understand being a human, and then apply them in spaces where we can scale the impact, where we can help people to achieve their mission, whatever that is for their organization, and hopefully uplift the well-being of all the people that are working within that space, because work is such a huge part of our lives.
Yeah. So
I love applying psychology. I think it's important.
Yeah. So what makes a consulting psychologist a consulting psychologist? I think some people might be curious about what does that mean in the space of helping organizations instead of what most people think about, which is, first of all, there's like 50 kinds of psychologists out there, but almost everybody thinks of clinical psychologists as psychologists, right? The people who provide the healthcare. And so some people might be concerned if we're talking about societal messages and unhelpful messages, and if we're talking about, how it affects us as humans and within how we're struggling with this disconnect and how we need to be authentic and transparent. All of this stuff sounds like wishy-washy,
Deep.
just psychobabble stuff. But why is it important now more than ever when we're leading through uncertain times to be able to understand how the system around us and the messages we receive about how we show up? Why is this so important now more than ever to have this skill set, to be able to invite a consulting psychologist as opposed to any differently trained executive coach or business consultant to do these kinds of things?
I think because we are facing many complex and dynamic changes that are going to be coming our way. We know that whether it be technology or the makeup of our workforce and the values that they hold, or unexpected, unforeseen, unprecedented things that happen as they have in the last few years, whatever that might be, changes in society, changes with healthcare, obviously we've had, whatever those things that are happening that may come our way, we have to be agile. And while I do think there is space for different types of consultants, depending on what your need is, I think psychologists are going to be able to manage complexity. They'll be able to manage things like conflict, crisis, building resilience, uplifting well-being, and also understanding science and understanding evidence. So we bring a combination of skills and education and continued training that will allow for complexity and make room for complexity and really understanding root causes rather than addressing something that, might have some impact, but might not be the impact we need. So I really think we bring a unique, application of understanding people, and that's critical.
Yeah. So let's get into application for a second. Sure. If I'm a leader coming to you, right, and I'm sort of struggling with this, I have to be results driven, hard charging, aggressive or assertive. I'm being told I need to speak up. I need to take more risks. And all of these things feel like not quite right for me. Like, in fact, I'm starting to wonder whether I should be seeking a leadership role, whether it's even a good fit. And I'm coming to you as a leader for that, right? Do you have any frameworks or best practices, top 3 best practices for how leaders can catch themselves engaging in these societal messages that are unhelpful to them, and how they can counteract this stuff?
Yes, I would say that a more intentional way of approaching some of these messages that we are hearing could be first to have a really realistic perspective about what are your individual strengths, and also what are the things that are challenging for you as an individual. And so that is, the basis of humility. Being humble is that not that you don't have confidence, but also not that you know everything. And so how do we really get a clear picture to start from of understanding ourselves? And I think as psychologists, we are experts in assessment. We are able to help people really understand what that might mean and how to use assessments, and then, recommendations based on that. So I think, it starts with knowing yourself, illuminating your hidden potentials that you might not recognize, but also the things that might get you into trouble. Being able to practice the soft skills, that you hear people say, which really are those hard skills, but being able to practice every day the rituals where you can connect to other humans in a way that is effective. How do we really create high quality connections in a minute or less? It doesn't have to be this, big speech. Sometimes it's how you interact as you walk around a space. And then I think being able to take that everyday ritualistic practicing of, being a human, connecting to what your strengths are, connecting to when you need to defer to others, then you're coming from a really clear space where when you look toward long-term resilience and clarity in a long-term vision, you are going to be able to have a more strategic and grounded approach, rather than feeling like you're being batted around by the next wave that hits you every time. Because you're starting from a space that is understanding yourself.
Yeah. Let's dig into this even more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start with the first one.
Okay.
Understanding yourself better.
Yes.
Let's say now, I understand myself. I've done some assessments with you, right? And now I have like this picture of what I bring to the table. And I say, this doesn't sound like a leader. This doesn't look like a leader. I'm not sure this is a good fit. I mean, I keep getting told I should be doing this, and this, which is the opposite of who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with that?
Well, I think I will say I hear that from many women, that they will run into those systemic messages that you need to change this or that. Don't show your emotion, or, don't project any bit of vulnerability or nurturing. And I think that it's important to recognize that sometimes the problem is not with you and that you need to change yourself, that sometimes that might be an unhelpful systemic message you're hearing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that wherever you're hearing the message from is true and factual, that you have to be that to be a leader. And I think the more we see different examples of what leadership looks like, we can see that embodied in different ways.
Yeah.
So I think that that's really important, because it's not always the person that's hearing that is the problem that needs to change.
Right. And then sometimes we don't realize what different people can bring to leadership that actually could be useful, a counterbalance, a complement, something that people actually need more of, but we didn't realize. It's reminding me of an experience I had where I had an advisor who was like, Mira, you need to be a lot more focused in order to be successful. You need to just do, one thing. And I said, what's the problem with being a generalist?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you can't be a generalist in all things and blah, blah, blah. And I said, I think there's actual strengths to this. And what I realized over time in my own leadership career is that leaders aren't necessarily continuing to focus on their subject matter expertise. They become a generalist in understanding how things work together and where to go for different things.
Mm-hmm.
And that became a strength as I rise in leadership roles. It wasn't a strength at first.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something to be thinking about over time as well. Let's keep talking about this. We do have an ad break. You're listening to The Hard Skills with me, Dr. Mira Branco. I'm here with our guest, Dr. Patty Weeder. We're going to be back in just a moment. If you do have some questions for us, leave them online and we will pull them and respond to them in real time. And we will be back in just a moment.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back with Dr. Patty Weeder. We are here talking about unhelpful societal messages that get in the way of leading through uncertainty. And Patty shared with us 3 different ways that you can start working through unhelpful societal messages. One was understanding yourself better. Mm-hmm. So that you know what you're bringing to the table and know you're able to be much more strategic about how you want to use those strengths or minimize the potential risk factors or pitfalls. The other is practice soft skills. Mm-hmm. And finally, connecting with others, right? And we were just sort of talking about like the benefits of understanding yourself is really understanding what you're bringing to the table, and then recognizing that sometimes people need something different of their leaders than what they're getting, or need a complement of different types of styles. I often think about this also in the context of team leadership, right? Now more than ever, we aren't leaning into the single hero model of leadership. We're leaning into team leadership. And when you think about team leadership, you no longer have to be all things to all people, and you don't have to be the one savior of all the people, right? Like you can bring different things to come together as a leadership team. And that's one of the benefits that I think about when I think about understanding yourself and what you're bringing. Are there other benefits to combating, counteracting these societal messages that are unhelpful through the mechanisms that you mentioned, through practicing the soft skills mm-hmm. and connecting with others?
Yeah, I think, when we are practicing connection every day, rituals that allow us to know the people around us. We're better able to see their strengths that then we can defer to when we need to, because maybe they've got something they're bringing that we realize would be better suited for whatever we're tackling. We also are continually learning, and in the process of being able to face some unknown, we can do it with a foundation of relationships that have a trusting and sort of united, cohesive way of problem solving. And so then we don't get stuck as much in the aspects of our personality and others that might get in our way or derail us because we're overusing it. We're not taking it. We're being ourselves already. So when we're getting into those spaces where we do have to problem solve, we can really readily see what are we bringing from the strengths of all the people here, and how can we best utilize those people's strengths so that in the tasks of their work, they really feel empowered that they're doing something meaningful that they can deliver on. And that you also, as you know, in your role, feel the same way. So, you know, that's going to clarify the sense of purpose, clarify the way that you are reaching your potential, which all of these things are fundamentals of well-being. When I feel like I can use my strengths for something that is the greater good, and while I'm at it, I'm connecting to other people, all of that is helping me to have a sense of flourishing or thriving. And so, you know, that builds the capacity for us to take on greater challenges and momentum that we can, you know, use this great connection that we have with other people for, you know, the next thing that we're facing. So yeah, it's really leveraging human potential.
Yeah. So wait, are you saying that reaching our potential, being authentic and genuine, empowering ourselves and other people, having a healthy sense of ourselves and other people might actually create more well-being and healthy workplaces?
I mean, you know, it's almost like this is important for our society, that we, you know, have people that are healthy and happy at work, and we're able to, you know, work together for good things in the world. I mean, that is one of the reasons last year we had a whole, you know, design from the Surgeon General of how do we uplift well-being at work. Why do we care to do that? Because people are at work for many hours of the day. And if people are well at work, they're more likely to be uplifted and, you know, impact their family, their community, society. So again, this is a scalable sort of impact that you can have when you are able to help people flourish in the workplace.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a great segue. Speaking of scaling our impact and the ripple effect, you and I have been working on this Tower Scope Leadership Academy, and you're on the advisory board, right? Mm-hmm. It's an advisory of women, high achieving, amazing women.
Yes.
Developed for women. And it's women centric. So it is gender inclusive, but we focus on the experiences, the lived experiences of women. And anyone is welcome to join. And we've been thinking a lot about, like, how do we use this platform in order to have a more affordable, accessible mechanism for people to come together around these kinds of things, right? Around making a difference, creating healthier workplaces, positive, inclusive workplaces, and then developing their own leadership in this way where you're able to sort of separate out what are the unhelpful societal messages from who I really am and what I can bring to the world that is different, that is worthwhile, valued, that makes a difference. And so let's talk about that for a moment, right? Yeah. I'm actually gonna, since we're live, I'm gonna use the time to share my screen here while we're doing this. And those of you who are going to watch the recording are able to see this as well. I'm showing the Towerscope Leadership Academy landing page here. Tell us a little bit about this. What are people going to be seeing when they're looking at this, and really, like, how does that connect to what we're talking about today? This well-being aspect, creating healthy workplaces, societal messages, navigating those. Tell us a little bit more about, like, why you specifically decided to join this advisory board, what you hope we can accomplish through this.
Well, I think, the path that I took to get involved with the advisory board was pretty organic, and it was, connection to you, but then being able to connect to these other women who you have surrounded yourself with these people who, like you said, are driven, are seeking success, but also this feeling of being able to contribute what they bring, whatever their expertise is, but, maybe running into barriers. And so I think I was drawn to this because it was a really authentic conversation. And I was able to be vulnerable myself because there were other people who were sharing those situations that maybe they've been in where they were unsure. Do I believe this message? Is this true? What I should be, hearing about how to navigate the future of my career. And I really think that there's just value in creating a space where we are not only, validating that we're not the only one having the experience, but we're also figuring out, what do we do about it? How do we, navigate systems? How do we navigate conversations that might be tough? How do we address the challenges ahead of us in a way that can stay focused on the impact we want to make, and getting the support and resources we need to achieve that impact. So I just really felt drawn to the authentic connection and focus on results that we can achieve based, like in the changes we can make. So it felt empowering, I think, and that is something I wanted other people to experience. So that's what drew me in.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you said about this balance between a space where you can feel welcomed, authentic, be yourself, engage in these interesting conversations, get support, but it's also results driven, right? Like we're not just talking about how we feel.
Yeah.
Just because some of us, two of us, are psychologists, that's not really like the main focus. The main focus is to help elevate each member to reach their leadership goals, address the things that are sort of impacting, getting in the way, and but have the community to do so. And I'm sort of curious, like, why is it so hard to find these communities? I mean, when you're describing it, what comes up for me is, shouldn't we all be able to talk about these things in any given situation or environment at work, and why not?
Yeah. I mean, I think that we wish that we could, but sometimes we might be within organizations that have a culture that doesn't support vulnerability. Maybe there's a lot of competitiveness. Maybe there is a challenge where we feel there could be retribution if we were to share a negative experience or talk candidly about what we are seeing around us. Like, am I the only one seeing this here? But I almost can't say that out loud, because what if that impacts, my everyday, but also my potential and the opportunities ahead. So I think, it'd be great if these conversations were something people felt comfortable to have every day, but that isn't always the culture that they find themselves within.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just got a message that Catherine Hall, she and I recently connected on LinkedIn, actually, says, Good morning from the high desert. So, hi, Catherine. Nice to see you. Nice to have you join us. She is a publicist and has worked with some of the top book publishers, book authors, actually. So I'm excited to have her join us. We're going to take a quick break. Again, this is the Hard Skills. We air live every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And when we come back, we'll continue and we'll get into the lightning round, some questions that we received online from folks and responding to them as we continue on. So we'll be right back.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back on the Hard Skills with Dr. Patty Whiter. And we're talking about leading through uncertainty, especially when navigating unhelpful societal messages.
Mm-hmm.
So we're moving into a lightning round, which is when we look at what people have already asked us online and respond to them. And we do have one question from Dr. Stephanie Mockler. She is a co-founder and president of the Violet Group, a leadership and organizational development company that cultivates inclusive leaders and helps women leaders rise. So obviously I have deep support for her there. Now, she asked a really interesting question. This is kind of meaty, I think. She says, I'd be curious to know about bad advice you've heard or observed on navigating uncertainty. With the unhelpful messages we can receive, what types of advice should we avoid? What do you think, Patty?
I think when it comes to advice, sometimes you hear counter advice to each other. And so the exact opposites of each other will be said to people. And so it can be really confusing. If I'm hearing messages, but they don't, now what do? I'm hearing all sorts of things. So I think, for one, being able to look at the source of who you're hearing advice from. Is this a trusted source and someone that I admire? And maybe, do I want to model myself after maybe the advice I hear from this source? But, some of the things that I think people hear might be things like trust your gut, or being able to, navigate based on intuition. And counter, you might also hear like trust what's worked in the past, or trust only maybe data, logistics, practical solutions that we know work. And I think both of those things are important if we are moving forward, with a sense of wisdom, with a sense of agility, that we have to be able to understand what's happening with us internally, emotions, thoughts, things like that, our gut, while also being able to have, influence based on facts, data, and what we know. So I think it's more important to say, like, how do we take advice in a nuanced way, and really make sense of it. So
Yeah.
That's going to be important, that we look at the source and that we look at how this applies to what we're facing, and the ways that maybe there's more gray area and it's not all black and white.
I think that's really good advice. And what I'm hearing behind what you're saying is there is self-trust and there's wisdom.
Mhm.
And both of those things are developed over time as you try things out and see what happens.
Mhm.
And sometimes the sort of more generalized one size fits all comments like trust your gut and trust what's happened in the past, while it makes perfect sense if you lived in a bubble.
Mhm.
Many of us have had such confusing or bad experiences, or experiences where we've been, like how I started today, talking about constant messages told to women that actually are so harmful and unhelpful, but then we start believing them.
Mhm.
So then that is our gut.
Yeah.
Our gut is,
Yeah.
don't trust myself because I don't know anything, because I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
That is not accurate, right? And so that's not helpful if that's what I'm sort of rooting into. And so what you're saying is, start understanding, like, how do you develop trust in yourself actually over time?
Mhm.
And how do you gain the wisdom to know the difference between someone else's messages about you that have nothing to do with you,
Yeah.
and then what is actually the sort of, what you're bringing. Is that
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Am I hearing, I don't know, consistent themes that are specific and are, something that I can apply? That might be, if the advice I'm getting is really simple and it's supposed to be applied everywhere to everything, then do I really trust that that's valid? And typically that's what we want, right? That's a certainty that feels good. I don't have to continue questioning. I don't have to continue learning or connecting. I can just say, okay, this is the answer. But usually if we've got that idea that, like, okay, just trust this piece of advice and that's the answer to everything, that's generally just not going to come to fruition in the way we would want it to. So I think
I love that.
it's a continual process.
Yeah. This is where I want us to leave, because I think what you're saying here is that if you jump too fast to leading with certainty by having or insisting on having the right answer, and that must mean it must apply to all things, then you're going in the wrong direction, actually.
Yeah. Because then, we know what happens then. We don't need to keep seeking out information that might, take us in a different direction. We don't need to defer to anybody else that might give me, their insights as an expert. Like, it stops growth when we feel so certain and that there is one right answer. It just slows us down, because we think we don't need to continue developing, learning, and connecting.
Some of the strongest people and true leaders understand what it's like to sit in the gray, sit with uncertainty, and help other people do the same exact thing. So with that in mind, what is one thing that you would like people to take away from today?
I would really like people to have compassion for themselves when they are in that uncertain space, that it is hard, and that we don't have to have all the answers. We can navigate those spaces, and that it is important to navigate those spaces because we're learning through those experiences.
Absolutely. And if people want to learn more about you, connect with you, where do they go?
I think probably LinkedIn is your best bet if we can connect there. And it's just, Patty Whiter. I'm active on there. I'm responsive. You can check my website out, pattywhiter.com. But LinkedIn is best. I'm active, and I'll be able to get connected with people and learn more about them.
Awesome. And it's Patty with an I,
Yes.
and Whiter, WEITER.
Yes, not so simple, but hopefully once we're connected, I'm the only one so.
Absolutely. Okay. So audience, what did you take away? And more importantly, what is one small change that you can implement this week based on what you learned today from Patty? Share it with us on LinkedIn so we can cheer you on. And my team and I, as you heard, have developed this new Tower Scope Leadership Academy. It's a membership community in which we're learning and talking about these skills more and more. We're launching a 9-week beta version that will never be available again, and never at this incredibly low price. It's $295 for something that's worth $5,000. Okay.
Absolutely.
We're looking for very specific people that can help us grow the community and really help us start out strong, and that we can invest in who have a ripple effect on other people to create this kind of healthy, inclusive environment. Okay. So apply now, and we start on October 2nd. And you can find us at gotowerscope.com and navigate to the academy, or find out more from either of us at LinkedIn. Okay. So whatever you learned this week, make sure to share with us. Post it on talkradio.nyc or at Mira Brancu or Patty Whiter and on LinkedIn. Yes, we're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, all over the place, but LinkedIn is kind of where we live, Patty and I. Okay. Next Friday, September 8th, we have Dr. Rahman Abdul Rahman, and he will share his expertise on leading with uncertainty when engaging in DEI efforts. You will not want to miss that. Remember, this is a radio show and podcast. While yes, we are clinical and organizational psychologists and coaches, we are not your clinical psychologist or coach. None of what we have discussed should be taken as legal, medical, or mental health advice. If you want advice from professionals, engage with them, and you can engage with us as well. Thank you all, and join us next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern for more.
Thanks, Mira.
Absolutely.